You ever have one of those mornings where you're just trying to move a sofa and drink your coffee and suddenly find yourself standing in your pajamas, staring down a suburban warlord with a stack of fake genealogy charts? Because that was me right there, smack in the middle of what should have been the most peaceful Tuesday morning of my life, except I'd apparently inherited, along with my grandpa's ranch, the single most unhinged HOA president in Florida. And let me tell you, folks, that's a title with some stiff competition. I mean, picture this, a guy coffee in hand, new to the country, life finally breathing easy on 25 acres of rolling green that's been in his family since 1962. Not a soul around except old oaks, some far-off cows, and the sound of quiet so deep you start thinking in full sentences again. Then suddenly here comes Catherine Stone marching across the property line at 700 a.m. sharp, hair done-up blazer full of shiny HOA pins, and an armful of family trees she probably made with a Crayola and a dream. She's waving these things around like they're ancient scrolls that'll open a portal to another dimension, one where she's queen, and I'm the trespasser, even though my name's on every deed in the county clerk's office. "Get off my family's sacred land!" she shrieks loud enough to set off a chorus of dogs 3 blocks away. I swear, my great-great-grandmother's buried here. And I'm just standing there in my slippers wondering if I'm awake or if I mixed up the decaf and the cold medicine again. But no, this is real. And I can feel all the curtains in the neighborhood twitching open, folks peeking out. One guy may be recording on his phone, and me, suddenly the star of a show I never auditioned for. Now here's the thing. I'd done my homework. My granddad raised me better than to trust luck alone. The county clerk had handed me every last paper I needed, the 1962 deed boundary surveys, tax records, you name it. This ranch was never in any HOA, let alone one that didn't exist until 20-something years after my family planted our first fence post. But you try explaining that to someone who's rewriting history in real time with every stomp of her spotless white sneakers. Catherine wasn't just angry, she was performing. Each step on my gravel felt like a gavel strike. Clipboard in hand, color-coded tabs fluttering, she was prosecutor, judge, and jury, ready to sentence me to neighborhood exile. I almost laughed, but my hand was shaking so bad I sloshed hot coffee down my arm instead. But you know what really got me? The confidence. She claimed she'd found my name in county inheritance records, did some research, and decided that made her the rightful guardian of my granddad's land. The woman had lived here 3 years, max. Yet she wove this elaborate story about ancestors and sacred grounds, ignoring the small matter that the county cemetery board had 0 records of any of her supposed kin, living or dead, within 100 miles of my back fence. Still, logic and facts had about as much effect on Catherine as a speed bump on a runaway train. The confrontation went on 20 minutes, her voice getting shriller, my patience getting thinner. Then with a dramatic flourish, she promised a daily vigil, said she'd be back every sunrise, fighting for her constitutional rights until I admitted my historical crime. She even said she'd bring proper documentation tomorrow, which I'm guessing meant a new batch of fake family trees hot off the printer. Later that night, I found a note tucked under my truck's wiper blade. "She's not what she seems. A restraining order prevents direct contact. A friend." No name, no explanation, just a warning in shaky handwriting smelling faintly of cologne and cigarettes. Suddenly, it wasn't just me versus Catherine. It was me caught in the middle of something bigger, with at least one anonymous neighbor watching her every move, legally bound to keep their distance. Let me back up a sec, because the next morning Catherine leveled up. Picture a Broadway actress in a full Victorian morning dress, black veil, and antique jewelry worth more than my mortgage payment, setting up a table at the property line. She staged her grief performance with laminated scrolls, a family compass, and a leather journal for documenting my supposed crimes. The commitment was almost impressive. Neighbors came out to watch. A kid stopped his bike, mouth open. Dogs howled. Catherine wailed to the sky, arms up, like she was summoning her ancestors. That's when I met Tommy Harrison, retired mechanic, world's best dad, mug in hand, leaning on his porch like he'd seen everything and nothing could shock him now. "You should have seen the moving truck 3 months back," he muttered. "Boxes everywhere. Week later, she's back. New curtains, daily deliveries. Divorce, I bet." He wasn't cruel, just tired. He told me Catherine's routine had gotten weirder by the week, delivery trucks dropping off costumes and props, neighbors gawking, nobody really wanting to get involved. Later, the county surveyor arrived my request. I figured an official witness might help when this circus inevitably hit the courts. The surveyor, stone-faced, set up her tripod, while Catherine insisted the historical maps had been corrupted by modern influences and tried to make her use the $60 compass from eBay. The surveyor just did her job, but I could see her thinking, they don't pay me enough for this. Then, as if things weren't weird enough, Catherine brought backup. 2 people she introduced as her grief counselor and family historian, turns out actors she'd found online for $50 an hour who thought they were helping with some experimental theater project. The counselor was a local thespian, the historian, a retired drama teacher, both paid to nod solemnly while Catherine gave monologues about her fake ancestral trauma. That evening, another envelope appeared, this one with a detailed schedule of Catherine's daily prep mirror practice at 6:30, makeup at 6:45, prop arrangement performance at 7:05, departure at 7:35. Someone was watching her, documenting every move legally from the sidewalk, but with the precision of a private investigator. The note even smelled of cologne and cigarette smoke, same as before. Day 3. Catherine showed up with a metal detector searching for stolen family jewelry supposedly buried on my land. She planted fake rings and necklaces, then discovered them for the neighbors. And that night, a new envelope, surveillance photos of Catherine's costumes on her clothesline, her trash full of receipts for props, even shots of her in her bedroom visible through the window. Whoever this was, they had serious investigative chops. Tommy, I learned, wasn't my secret ally. He was in Tampa with his daughter when some of the photos were taken, GPS tagged and all. The real twist, mixed in with Catherine's camping gear, I found mail addressed to David Miller. Divorce records told the rest. Catherine had married David for 6 months, changed her name, then torpedoed the marriage with the same control issues now aimed at me. David, it turned out, was the source of the anonymous notes. A restraining order kept him from direct contact, but he'd lived through her psychological spiral firsthand and didn't want anyone else to get blindsided. Catherine's performances escalated. She set up a survival tent at my fence line, staged all-night vigils, and eventually started blasting ancestral violation alerts on a megaphone. The neighborhood dubbed it Radio Catherine. She filed fake restraining orders against the whole block, citing grave desecration conspiracy. The county attorney laughed them off, but the viral video of her antics brought out the media, which only encouraged her. It all came to a head after 3 weeks. Catherine hadn't slept in days, her camp turning into a trash heap. Her voice shot from yelling into that megaphone. County mental health paramedics and the HOA board staged an intervention. Catherine, wild-eyed, scrambled onto my fence and declared herself the high priestess of ancestral guardians, blaming her ex-husband. He documented everything. "He's planning to destroy me," she shouted about betrayal, surveillance, sacred rites, mixing truth with delusion, and for the first time, everyone saw the real pain behind the madness. Eventually exhausted, she accepted voluntary evaluation at the psych facility. As the paramedics helped her down, divorce papers spilled from her purse, David Miller's name clear as day. The neighborhood breathed a collective sigh of relief. For the first time in weeks, the only thing you could hear at sunrise was birds and the whir of sprinklers. Outside the facility, a man approached, tired, worried, but with a look of quiet relief. "I'm David Miller," he said. "I'm the one who's been sending you the notes. I couldn't let what happened to me happen to you." Turns out all his anonymous surveillance, all his warnings had been about protecting both me and Catherine. Not out of revenge, but because he understood her pattern, he'd lived it. A year later, the grass grew back where Catherine camped. Kids biked past my fence without a second glance, and neighbors actually talked again, no longer hunkered down behind curtains. David moved on, new state, new wife, a chance at peace. Catherine completed her therapy, found a place where she could get help and not hurt anyone else. My ranch at last was quiet, haunted only by the memory of a crisis averted and a neighbor who cared enough to stand watch in the shadows. So tell me, have you ever had a neighbor cross the line in ways you never saw coming? Or maybe you've been the anonymous helper in someone else's storm. Drop your story in the comments below. Where do you draw the line between justice, compassion, and your own peace of mind? And if this wild ride kept you hooked, hit that like button to help us share more true stories from the edge of American suburbia. Until next time, keep your property deeds and maybe a pair of earplugs close by. You just never know what drama might roll up to your fence at sunrise.